Na mpenzi mtazamaji wa Sauti TV na Spotlight, leo tuko hapa na mbunge wa Kimilili mwenyewe DIDMUS Barasa. Tumekutana na wewe, ni siku ambaye unajaribu kupanga mambo ya constituency, mambo ya bunge. Kwanza tuambie uko vipi, umeendeleaje? Najua taifa imekuwa na hapa na kule, wewe sijui unaendelea vipi?
Mimi niko sawa. Najua mimi ndio chairman wa agency ambaye alijichagua mwenyewe. Najua popote duniani there is no vacuum. Wakati kama bado wanajipanga, mimi ndio sasa de facto chairman ya agency Eastern Central Africa.
Hiyo ni self declared. Hebu kwanza tuambie, how did you come up ukaamua mimi ndio ukajiteua kama mwenyekiti chairman wa agencies? Haujaambiwa ilikuwaje?
Unajua wakati wale maagency walikuja pale bunge, nikamwambia mimi ndio senior agency, na kidogo kwa kuwa pale na purukushani pale kidogo, ikabidi ni chomoke. Na yote 9 mimi ni senior agency, and what you cannot wish away is that I'm both youthful and young. Before, I'm approaching 40. So I am still falling in the category of the young people of this country. So I am one of them, like very many other very young leaders. We are one of them, and we have to pull together to take this our country forward, regardless of what happened. Like I've said before, that the historical invasion of parliament is not something that we can no longer condemn, but it's something that will make us now draw lessons from what happened, that we have no choice, but we have to engage, not just the young people of our nation, but everybody, so that we bring everybody together. And I think time has come that we break the barriers that had demarcated part of government to mean that they are only occupied by shareholders, by shareholding. We should now remove the ring fence for shareholding and make our government open for each and every Kenyan, regardless of how they voted, where they come from, regardless of their political affiliations, whether they initially voted for Kenya Kwanza or Azimio. They are all Kenyans, and they require equal treatment. And especially coming at the time when you've seen some sections of leaders in this country, most notably the governor for Nyeri, who have been lamenting that why is it that the government of Kenya is spending billions of shillings to write off debts for the sugar factories in this country. And the reason why the man was very upset is that we never voted for this government more than the people of Central Kenya did. He ended up questioning that the people of Central Kenya are not the ones that chewed the cane. He didn't understand that the government of Kenya had not committed any money to write off the debts. Writing off debts, it means the money existed in oxygen, in hewa. The money was not there. Not that the government picked the money and took them there, but for very many years you've seen the government write off debts with equal money, with the tangible money to coffee farmers, tea farmers, dairy farmers, various cooperative associations that are very active in central part of Kenya. So what now we are saying that we must really call those leaders to order, that we must end tribalism, and I think even putting sections of our country aside because of not voting for Kenya Kwanza, because of not voting for William Samoei Ruto. I think it's a bigger crime than tribalism. Yes.
The current situation in the country, yesterday there was a very, very major decision that was made, the dissolving of cabinet. Sijui wewe uliipokea vipi? What is does the decision satisfy the current situation? Does it cool things down? Some call it a PR stunt from the presidency. What do you think about that decision?
I think the dissolution of the whole cabinet yesterday by His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto is unprecedented. It got Kenyans by surprise. We thought maybe we'll do a reshuffle by dropping some and bringing in some other people. Of course, we all agree that we have some CSs who have really done a very good job in this country. You remember, for example, when when this administration was formed and we took over power from the previous regime, the sound of guns was all over in some part of this country. In the North Rift, very many people lost their lives, and it took the courage of the soft-spoken Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki to put every available resources, engaging every available stakeholders to ensure that the people of Baringo and environs, West Pokot, those areas that were bandit prone, that those people from those areas, at least they can sleep. Very many schools which had been taken over by bandits. I think Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki was able to steer the ministry into reclaiming those schools to be part of the community, back to the government, and like any other child of this country who deserve a right to go to school, to be educated, I think we must give credit to Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, who did a very good job. And so the whole dissolution of cabinet got Kenyans by surprise, because we never thought that some like those people will also be fired. But nonetheless, we trust the president. We know that our head of state is not drunk, like he used to say when he was campaigning. Yeye si mlevi, yeye sio mwenda wazimu. For him to come up with a decision to dissolve his cabinet, I think he may have consulted widely. He knows what he wants to achieve. He is the one who signed a social contract with the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya have a number of a raft of issues that they want addressed. And if, in his own wisdom, he felt that by dissolving cabinet and reconstituting it will give him an opportunity of reassembling the men and women of our great country who will fast track the realization of the Kenya Kwanza dream, who can actually assist him birth a new Kenya as like his loyal soldiers and loyal foot soldiers. We only left with one thing to do, to pray for him, that God continues to give him the Solomonic wisdom, that even as he reassembles his troop, I think he will do so with one purpose, with one vision, to take our country forward, to unite our country, to get rid of our country of these undertones, tribal undertones, to be able to reshare the cake of Kenya to each and every part of our region, regardless of how they voted. And I think my only advice to him is that as a former military, when you've just come out of war, which you have won, you protect the territories that are yours, but also, most importantly, you must raid into the new territory. So I think what I'm saying is that even as we plan to reconstitute our government, we should reach out to our former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. We should reach out to Kalonzo Musyoka, reach out to, of course, Oparanya is part of Oparanya, Joho, those are part of the Azimio Brigade, because it is our intention and the intention of every government that a region that no longer supported you in your in the last general election, we should be able to bring that region on board so that we expand our support base of our coalition by bringing other players who never supported us together. Because I am a believer that where we sit as Kenya Kwanza government, the people who will add much value to our journey to transform this country are the people who never supported us. If we can manage to convince them to support us, that we have this plan, you wanted to run the government, but it was not possible. So can you bring those your good ideas, the thing that you had in your mind, that you will implement and bring this Kenya together and take it forward? Can we now form a team called Team Kenya, and then we can take our country forward? So I will want our president to take this advantage to also bring on board the Luo Nyanza that largely never supported us, to bring on board Mombasa that also largely never supported us, so that we can end this blackmail that we have continued to face every time from the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua.
Don't you think that bringing up new political factions into the ruling party or the ruling coalition, that is Kenya Kwanza, or just forming a government of coalition, would bring more discontent? Because already we've seen Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is trying to maybe say openly split from the coalition.
You know, with much respect to our Deputy President, I may admit that Rigathi Gachagua of today is not the Rigathi Gachagua that I knew. It's not the Rigathi Gachagua that I was sitting next to in the previous parliament when he was member of parliament for Madeira. And at times I joke by saying that maybe when he began to fight illicit brew in Mount Kenya, could he have tested the same illicit brew? I don't know. Or maybe could he, like very many police officers we see around, when they go to have a crackdown for this illicit brew, they will pick some, stock them in their house so that they can maybe once in a while they will take it. So I'm wondering whether also Rigathi Gachagua is keeping some exhibits of illicit brew in his house that he takes every time he appears to speak in public. Because I wonder whether he takes time to reflect on the things he says when he goes out. So I think him, because he has shown us the middle finger, that of course through his spokesperson, who is the governor for Nyeri, Mutahi Kahiga, that they can attempt to form government with other people. No problem, that is his democratic right. He can walk out of government next week, next month. He can decide to form his own party. He can decide to say that in 2027, I'm going to go it alone. He can say all those, because those are his democratic right. And I think for us now in Kenya Kwanza, that has given us a lesson that once you form the government, you should not be a Mr. Take it all. Yeah, the winner take it all syndrome is not a good thing in our country. You should bring the whole country together and forget about the shenanigans of the Deputy President. Let us bring on board everybody, bring on board Raila Odinga, bring on board Kalonzo Musyoka, of course willingly, not by coercion or by putting a pistol on his head the way Uhuru Kenyatta was doing, as we are bringing people to work with us willingly. You know, it is the intention of every government to be able to reach out to our perceived enemies, to our perceived opponents, so that we can bring them together. Either forming one government doesn't necessarily mean that appointing Raila Odinga in his position or something, but bringing, putting the ideas of developing our country together, and that is the idea of every government in power. Even Kibaki did that in what the media created a narrative of poaching, It was not poaching. Basically, it's basically bringing the whole country together. And as we are doing it differently, as our philosophy is that we sell our idea and people come to join us, to work together with us without necessarily coercing them, unlike the previous regime of Uhuru Kenyatta that forced people to work with it by putting guns on their head, pistols on their head. As it's an open policy, an open door policy, you come in, we'll welcome you. You want to leave, we will say, we are sorry you are leaving. We would have wanted to be with you for the next of our time, but because you want to leave, that's your democratic right. There is nothing we can do.
Just for clarity, when did the rain start beating Kenya Kwanza to bring this rift between the president and his deputy?
To be very honest, is the differences between the president and his deputy began when his deputy began to advocate for things that were not within the policies of Kenya Kwanza, profiling also development in our country, profiling certain leaders, which is not a good thing to do. It is the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, that began the narrative of shareholding. And we saw the head of state trying to correct in a good way, where I was saying that we will develop this country equally, regardless of how regions voted for us. So, and also the DP also went ahead to begin undermining some leaders. We will hear him in vernacular radio stations saying that Wetangula did not even deserve to be given that position because they brought on board very little votes. Same to Musalia Mudavadi and very many other people. And you see also he refused not to be a deputy president of the Republic of Kenya and chose to be a deputy president for Mount Kenya region. He was just doing meetings in Mount Kenya only, in Nyeri, in Murang'a, in Kiambu. He didn't know that the Constitution has given him responsibilities of being the president's principal assistant on matters that concerns the whole country, not only on matters that are concerning one particular region. He ended up also, while we appreciated that there are very many things that were happening in this country, including selling the government agenda to every part of our country, and our foot soldiers being members of parliament from Mount Kenya region, a number of them, they were forced that they have to pledge their loyalty to the deputy president. And when they said, no, I mean, you cannot just assume that because you are holding the second powerful position in the country, therefore you are the kingpin of the region, and we have to pledge allegiance to you. So those who say that we cannot pledge allegiance to an individual, but we only pledge allegiance to the state, to the Republic of Kenya, and of course, by saying you pledge allegiance to the Republic of Kenya, you're simply saying your allegiance is to the president, who's actually the head of government and the commander-in-chief. So he ended up now, campaigning against them in forums everywhere, profiling them as lost leaders, calling them tukunia, calling them very many bad names. And I think that is where the differences between the DP and our president began to widen. And I think the rift widened more when he began to go against what the head of state has said, this including, of course, commissioning his mouthpiece, who is actually the governor for Nyeri, to go out on charm offensive, where they want to take all positions in government. They want to blackmail the government in terms of saying we have not had enough, And is basically a champion of ethnic hate. And I think even in a modern democracy, if the democracy of Kenya was similar to democracy of the European countries, I think the deputy president ought to have resigned from the position of deputy president a long time ago, because he is a champion of ethnic hate. it is his sentiments. Wherever he opens his mouth, he doesn't utter words that will knit the country together in line with our national values, but actually it widens the rifts between one community to the other community. Yeah.
Are the differences reconcilable?
We are not focusing about reconciliating. You know, reconciliating will be self-synchronizing. Self-synchronizing means our president has got no problem with his deputy as an individual. And I think these differences will only reduce or only get away if Rigathi Gachagua can have a reflection with himself. He need to have a meeting with himself to reflect and then to change, championing things that will divide this country. He should drop his things of shareholding. He should drop his things about Mount Kenya, Mlima, and begin to talk about Kenya as a country. He should begin to be concerned about the same way he is concerned about anything that happens in Mount Kenya, whatever happens in Lamu, whatever happens in Bungoma, whatever happens in Turkana, whatever happens in Homa Bay should concern him as well. So if he will change and begin to think and act like as a Kenyan, if he will change and begin to act as a national leader, he need to make up a decision on whether he want to continue serving this country as a deputy president, which has jurisdiction over all the territories that are within the Republic of Kenya, or decide to become a regional leader. And you know, when he want to be a regional leader, he should resign from being the deputy president so that he can go and serve for people of Nyeri as their governor. He can run for member of parliament for Madira or some ward where he can run as an MCA if he want to be a local leader. Because governors, MCAs, those are local leaders. Even members of parliament are national leaders. So if our deputy president want to continue championing the regional interests of his region, then there are only two positions available in this country that are reserved for an individual who want to live in a regional cocoon, in a tribal cocoon, in a local cocoon. Those positions are the governor and member of the county assembly.
As we conclude